All right, what is going on, everyone, and welcome back to more Black Desert. So, as you guys know, today was patch day. A lot of big stuff happened today. Central servers, grind spots at the end game got changed. But this is one thing I wanted to talk about. This should be helpful for basically everyone. Every year, they refresh the combat and skill XPs you can buy to 530%, and today was that day. So for all of you out there, if you're playing the game, make sure to pick these up. You buy these with loyalties, and everyone should get them. You can get 53 of them. Usually happens once a year, and that's a good thing to pick up. So what I wanted to talk about today was something that I made a video about before, and I'll just kind of cover all the topics that I did again, just for all the new players who are new to the channel and everything. So how to improve your grind. Here are some tips that I can give you guys. And one thing that I would actually recommend to everyone is learn to store your important buffs and scrolls in your family inventory, because a lot of people play on tagged characters and everything. And I don't know how many they give you by default. I have definitely bought some because I think they're important. But I think you get maybe between like 4 to 8 of them as free to play. So the important ones I would definitely recommend putting in there are, you know, the important scrolls you have, like loot scrolls. Put your cron meals in there. This one isn't as important, but put your infinite potions in there. That is very important. That means all you have to do whenever you play a new character is you can just set them from your family inventory. Some people don't know that, but you can, and you'll just have the little like square icon at the top. So infinite potions in your family inventory, high priority, loot scrolls, and then I guess everything else is personal preference, especially if you are like free to play or you don't want to buy family inventory. So those at least 3 things in there I would put. Anything else, by all means. All right, so I took some of my notes from my older videos, and here are some tips that I can give you. I'll show you how to do it and get them as well. In no particular order, just you want to do kind of like everything. But first of all, when you're grinding, this is one of the questions I get a lot, is how do you improve your grind? How do you get more trash loot an hour and all that stuff? And food and elixirs are actually very important. And something I've talked about before is when I watch other people grind or see what kind of loot they get, and especially new players, they're like, oh, I don't want to invest like 50 mil in a tent buff and go full out elixirs. And then they're wondering why their trash loot doesn't compete against a lot of other players. It's because like food buffs and every other buff actually does add up, and it's important. So this isn't not really a strict rule, but as a general guideline, the simple cron meals are for PvE. Exquisites are, you can use it for both PvP and PvE. It's kind of like, do you reach your AP cap? Do you need accuracy or anything? I see exquisites used more for PvP, but it's not that you can't use it in the other one. It's just usually the plus 30 monster AP kind of outweighs a lot of things. But once again, it's depending on where you grind, what you're actually doing, where you're grinding. So yeah, there's no right or wrong answer whether you use a simple cron or an exquisite. It's just kind of like where you're at and what your gear looks like. So yeah, then elixirs. I know you see all these elixirs right here. Some people might get overwhelmed, especially new players. Trust me when I say about 95% of you guys will probably never have to use it. And it's really for party spots and or very high-end spots. But the rest of us, even myself sometimes, depending where I'm grinding, getting a frenzy is actually not bad. Like, yeah, people look at it as like, oh, minus 15 DP, that's a debuff. But trust me when I say the damage output you do in terms of everything else to recover HP per hit is worth a lot more. So for most people, what I would recommend is a frenzy draft, and then if you are on a budget, a bracing spirit perfume, because these are 3 mil, and if you are like high end, you will be using perfumes because that's just straight up more damage output. But I remember using this on budget as well. This is considered the best in slot for non-full elixirs. But yeah, Frenzy, Bracing Spirit for the extra +5 and some HP. If you don't think you need it, you don't use it, but at least use a Frenzy and then a food buff. So yeah, I also have a video of like all my elixirs for PvP and PvE. It's kind of old now, but I think it's still relevant. Like, there's nothing that really got changed since last time. So I'll leave a link in the description to that if you want to watch it. The next thing I want to talk about is church buffs. And this is something that some people might not even know about, especially if you're new. But church buffs actually, they look like this. They have the offensive, then there's the defensive, and then there's a third one for XP. So basically what you would do in every town, you could just basically click this icon, the magnifying glass, into the silver church buffs, because the NPC is in a church, essentially. And you buy these 3 things. The difference is between 2 hours and 5 hours. That's where the cost comes in. And this one isn't the offensive, defensive, and the experience. So like if you're trying to level. And the buff will look like this one. So offensive is +8 AP and accuracy. Defensive is 8 DR and HP. And the XP is like, I think 10-15%. And so I think that's good. So the next thing we want to talk about is a tent buff. And it's going to look like this icon, or villa buff, as people call it. Tent, villa, same thing. So I know this one might be a little bit tricky, because whether you're a free-to-play player and don't have a tent, or you just decide to buy a tent, there are multiple ways of doing it. So I have a video on how to get the temporary tent for free, as in like you're doing the quest line and basically you just have to refresh it every week. And so essentially you can get this almost the same amount of effects, or the important ones, without spending real money. And then obviously the paid one is permanent. So anyway, this is what it looks like. The Villa scroll button right here. You're essentially going to want to get the body enhancement for most spots, unless you're super overgeared and all you're doing is going for XP. Most people you'll see are running the Villa body enhancement for the offensive, defensive, and just basically overall stats. And then this is what you see here is you're buying the time on the buff. So here's how we used to do it back in the day, before the tent even existed in the game. If you have a character in the desert, or basically somewhere down here, you'll see these icons right here, right? They're called villas, right? And you would basically go up to them and then you give them a gold bar. I think they changed it now, so you can actually just straight up pay with silver, which is a lot easier, thank God. But what you could do is, if you have a maid, you could just have a character parked at a villa, and you just get the invitation or whatever, the villa scroll that lasts for a week, and then you just get the buff from there and then transport it back. So, and then that gives you the thing for that one, which allows you to buy the buff from the tent, whether you have the paid one or the free one. But if you want to get the tent for free without spending real money, that is, I have a video, you can check that out. Basically, it's a very short quest line. It should take you like less than 30 minutes. Probably like 15, maybe not even that. So yeah, that's the next thing. And then we also talk about tent buffs, as in the loot item drop rate. So I know a lot of people, especially new players, are just like, wow, that's 50 mil. Will I even make that money back? And trust me when I say, I have literally grinded thousands of hours of various spots in this game. And using a loot buff is always important, because obviously it depends what you're grinding. And especially if you're going for like treasure items like the compass or the telescope, right? Obviously, will you notice it? Obviously, most likely not. But if it gives you a higher rate of actually getting it, then it's worth it, in my opinion. So I always use the 50% buff. Just keep in mind that most places the thing is capped, so how you would know like what your item drop rate is when you turn on your item collection scroll, or basically the scroll thingy, you can see the number in yellow. So if you just look at this wall of text right here, all you need to look at is basically the yellow number, right? So when you turn it on, it gives you a plus 100, and then you add more buffs going on. Right now we have a current like 100% buff, so you don't even have to buy the 50 mil tent one if you don't want to. All right, so next thing we have is a horse buff. Now, admittedly, this one is kind of more on the mid to end game side of everything. So the way it works is you would get a Krogdalo set, right? And the Krogdalo 5-piece will give you a specific set of whatever you want. You could buy this off the market. You just go Krogdalo. Oh my god. Okay, so basically there's 3 kind of sets for your regular horses and 1 for a donkey, which is life skill. But basically the earth one is a defensive buff. The water one is, I think that's just HP and stamina, and then the wind buff gives plus 5 AP. So the way it works is basically you go on here, press the skill, and you saw the extra, like the wind's roar. That gives 5 AP, so if you're grinding for an hour, that really does help. And yeah, most people will go for the wind one just because more AP allows you to clear faster, essentially. Admittedly, this one is kind of an investment, whether you're grinding it yourself or just buying it, because it doesn't matter what, like, plus rating it is, like plus 7, plus 8, plus 0. You just want to have 5 pieces for the set. So, yeah, it's one of those long-term investments. If you're going for the infinite potion pot, like you're just kind of grinding it out for yourself, you'll get a lot of them in the Navern Steppe area. So, keep that in mind. Next thing we want to talk about is Alchemy Stones. Okay, so here's how it works. If you are a new player or you're playing on seasonals, chances are you're using one of these because they give it to you from the seasons, and having one is better than not having one at all times. So basically you're getting more combat XP, skill XP, attack speed, monster AP, always nice. And then if you run out of that one while you're on seasonal and you don't know what to do, I would just go for the Spirit Stone. Just go for like a Destruction Stone, because even if you buy one of these, it's like, hey, plus 6 AP on your stats while you're using it, and then just buy more. They're 2 mil each. So until you get to the end game, it doesn't matter. I actually used this for a long time, just the Destruction Stones, because I didn't have like a Vel back in the day. So before I got mine, I was just using like whatever, buy one until it's empty, then do it again. So yeah, that's that. And then eventually your goal would be to get the Vel and then upgrade it from there, and that's what it is. So the next thing I want to talk about for more like ways you can improve your grind is artifacts and Lightstones. So this one is actually a tricky one to talk about because there's no right or wrong answer, and it also depends where you're grinding and what you're doing. So for me, I have a video basically covering everything I use in terms of like crystals, artifacts, Lightstones. So I'll leave a link in the description. It's like a 30-minute video. I know that's a really long time, but it goes into detail of like literally every set and crystal preset I have. So you just want to make sure. I'm just going to run through this really quickly, and if you want a long-winded explanation, go watch that video, because I explain why I use everything and where I do. But more AP is good. More AP against monsters, good. More attack speed, anything that allows you to clear faster is good, and which crystals I use. So same with artifacts and Lightstones. Here's the one I used, all out attack. It's an endgame one, and then the same crystals, but I talk about in the same video like beginner all the way to endgame crystals and artifacts and Lightstones to use. So yeah, there's a lot of different combinations, but just make sure you're using, as a beginner, something that gives you like extra AP against monsters. I think they give it to you as a default, like just by doing the quest in the game. So like the tutorial or whatever it's called. So as long as you see extra AP against monsters, it's essentially like having more AP. So it'll allow you to grind in higher end spots, and essentially it's almost like a 1-to-1 if you're using like, I don't know, Kama Sylvian damage or something. Like for example, this one, extra damage to Kama Sylvian monsters versus AP It's like 0.8 to 1, like, but it's a really, I could talk about that as a whole nother video, but essentially it's almost 1 to 1, and it's good to have. So, and it also depends on your gear. Either way, as long as you're stacking more kinds of damage, it's better than not doing it. So just make sure to check yours. And the next thing I want to talk about is something that I guess a lot of people forget, and I know I admittedly forget about this sometimes myself. So it's house buffs. And I actually have a lot of rented houses in this game, so like these are the ones I've gotten. And I use all of them for different things, whether it's life skilling or buff areas. And the way it works is you see all these cakes that they give you for like the anniversaries. I've just been playing this game for a long time. So essentially, like you use this, and then, for example, it'll give you like 100% combat XP. Or some of the things you can make yourself are like more AP, or I guess that was a special one. More AP, more resistances. So if you want to have like everything stacked, you'll see your health or your buff bar fully stacked with everything. Make sure to do that. And then this one is, I think a lot of people actually do this. I sometimes forget on like seasonal characters, is just make sure your skill add-ons are set. And if you are a PvEer, just make sure you have like something with extra AP against monsters. Even if you don't know how to effectively set skill add-ons, or let's say you're trying out a new class and you don't know what's good or not, when in doubt, just add more AP against monsters, attack speed, and like more damage. So no matter what you're doing, it's better than not having any. So as you get better, you find out what skills you're like more important to you. So yeah, make sure to save them in your presets for whether you play Succession, Awakening, and when in doubt, just add more AP and just add more damage, because later on, as you get better at your class, you'll figure out, hey, I use this skill more often, or this skill has a 5-second cooldown, and then I should be using this over and over. And so you just get better at it, and then make sure to actually add add-ons and seasonals. I admittedly sometimes forget until I'm like, oh, I'm level 60 now. I should probably do this. So yeah, those are the tips I have. I hope it helped you. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm happy to point all of you guys in the right direction. And I have a channel in my Discord in case any of you guys want to check it out. We have a gear help channel. So all you have to do is post a screenshot of your gear and be like, hey, this is what I want. Where should I go from here? What should I grind? I have videos for that as well. And if you're the kind of person that just likes to lurk around and you don't like talking to anyone, also have another channel in my Discord where it's called Guides and Tips. All my videos are, for the most part, updated. I try to keep them up to date, and so you can just watch that. You don't even have to talk to anyone, so that's awesome. And so with that said, any questions or anything, feel free to drop in the comments, join the Discord and everything, and happy to help. So hopefully that helped you. Make sure to pick up your scrolls, and good luck on your grind. Good luck running 66 and up. And yeah, I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace.